What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back again. And before we start, a huge thank you to everybody who subbed and also stayed with the channel, because I know I have to start with a huge apology. I haven't been uploading a lot in the last, I think, maybe month and a half. Reason is simple. I had huge projects for my work abroad, and on the other side, I was finishing my studio album. It's now done. It's 5 tracks. I'm still doubting about the last 2, but they're almost done and up for the to go to the label. So I will keep you posted on my socials, Instagram, TikTok. There is plenty of stuff to find there when I was working on the track. So there are some snippets out there, but that time did give me for some other things, and that's to revisit old systems, old games. I took my handheld with me. My Game Boy still works. The first one that came out still works. I took it with me. I took my PlayStation Vita and my Switch, and especially on the Switch, I played the Sega and the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo Entertainment stuff that you can access. Nintendo, the N64 as well. You can access it when you have a subscription to Nintendo. So actually, that in combination with the whole discussions at the moment with X-Defiant and Call of Duty, I just got fucking drained out from these constant repetitive discussions that are going on there. So it gave me a month and a half. Even when I was home, I was actually hooking up my Xbox, the original one, the 360, even PlayStation 1 and 2, just to revisit the whole vibe of that era and these things. So, we had so much limitations back then. So much. These developers didn't have the graphical power or the raw CPUs and GPUs, and we didn't have all these technical throughput thingies to optimize. We didn't have nothing. They only had creativity. That is actually what they had, and limitations combined with creativity brings a lot of good stuff. People have to go deep to present gameplay, immersiveness, storytelling, and overall experience. I realized that the graphics we now have and the possibilities and the technical things we can all do with these games, and did it actually did it increase the fun? The question is, did gaming become more boring in the last few decades? Did companies become too big? I'm seeing social movements and political agendas. I'm seeing that merging in with the entertainment industry in general. It's fun and entertainment needs to come first. And as I said, the whole discussion with freaking X-Defiant and Call of Duty, why are we still debating that? Call of Duty is not going anywhere. Let's get that out of out of the way. Call of Duty is not going to decline. There is no competitor. There is no contender. Black Ops 6 is going to sell his nuts off. Everybody's going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I want to see it. And X-Defiant, it's mediocre at best, and it does things very nicely and very good, and sometimes I have fun with it, but it doesn't draw me in and keep me there, because everything I'm seeing I've already seen before, and for me it's just a hybrid. It's a hybrid between Titanfall with those pilot abilities. It's a hybrid with Apex Legends in terms of presentation and the way it tries to the menu structure and the music. In terms of gameplay, yeah, it plays solid. Do think that there are still server issues left and right, but okay, that's good. But all in all, when you play these games, then eventually you feel how well Call of Duty has it with its gameplay. You can say a lot about Call of Duty, but the way it plays and it feels and it flows is Champions League, and they're not going to touch it. And when Black Ops 6 is here, they're going to struggle. They're really going to struggle. But coming back to the consoles that underpin these things, The PS5 and Xbox Series X, they're mid-lifespan already. And the question is, how do we remember these systems? If I'm thinking about all these old systems, the Xbox, the 360 with Gears of War coming out, we had the PlayStation 1, Resident Evil, first time on a disc, I was amazed. And we're now having a console that, if I'm just thinking about it, what is it so uniquely attached to these systems that make it stand out in terms of immersiveness? For me, it's up until now the console generation of remakes and cross-gen releases. So, how much fun do we have, peeps? How much fun? I'm actually curious on how much fun you have on the current consoles and Series X, PlayStation 5. It doesn't matter. I'm a gaming enthusiast. I'm not into the console wars. I'm into it because I love to see more console wars, because competition was bigger back in the days than it was now. It's just a handful of big corporate enterprises that run the show. So, but did it become boring? Did it? Is that actually? I made some notes here. The first thing that got me, and this is also the article that I wanted to show you from Tech Radar. This is from last year, 2023. So the debate is not new, and it's time to stop holding the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 back with cross-gen games. And 100%, I fully agree with what she's saying here. If I'm looking at, for example, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, that's a game that really shows me what we're capable of on a PlayStation 5. So if you give these developers more room for maneuver, then eventually they will pour more power out of that system. But almost every game has been released cross-gen, and I get it with COVID and the pandemic, and people weren't able to get that PlayStation 5. It's cool and all, but those times have passed. So stop releasing the Call of Duties, the Battlefields, all those big AAA games for cross-gen. Stop doing it, because it's also worth remembering that Xbox One, PlayStation 4 rapidly approaching being a decade old. It's already over a decade because this article is not new. And their custom-made GPUs to Durango and Liverpool, they're struggling with these modern games. You can see it in the performance of first and third-party titles, which he releases across both generations of hardware. The God of War Ragnarok, running on a base PlayStation 4. It's just able to maintain 30 frames per second when running on 1080p, but if you're looking at Horizon Forbidden West, it's kept frame rate of 30 frames per second and uses dynamic 1080p. So it's not even full HD anymore. We've passed it. This is not why we want to play anymore. If you want to have that raw power, it needs to run at 60 frames per second and maybe sometimes native 4K. So that is, stop holding back these systems, because if you want to develop for cross-gen, you always need to take 11, 12-year-old hardware as a baseline from where you need to build on. Otherwise, you don't know how much you need to scale down to make it happen. What also occurred to me is that with all the updates and the pre-release, the game needs to be released on a certain time, and when the game comes out, you always have that first day update, and then it constantly needs to update because the game is just not finished. It's not. And back in the day, we didn't have the luxury of internet. We didn't have it. Okay, it maybe sounds weird, but I'm an old geezer, 1979, and we didn't have that in the 80s and the beginning of the 90s also. So there was a huge pressure to make a first-time right approach. And now we've flipped that around. We want to keep it going. So this article, also from 2023 on Pocket Gamer, 79% of the devs are increasingly pressurized to release unfinished games. It's business and marketing driven, and of course, don't get me wrong, everybody should be entitled to earn a shitload of money. Please do so. But do so in a fashion that games at least have a certain baseline of fun, lives up to the promises, lives up to the expectations, lives up to the community of the communication. We had with Call of Duty the same. the most immersive, the most advanced, the most rich, content rich, and we're going to give you an unprecedented level of support. We all know these lines. And eventually they still release either in a poor or in a glitchy state and strip down from most of the content that we had in the past. So it's but we need to stop doing that. And on top of that, what I'm really frustrated about is these betas. You know, of course, every gamer that sees that there is a beta coming up, we all want to see it. Obviously, we're curious individuals. That's why we game in the first place. So if you throw something out there for free and to get a glance in the kitchen, obviously we're going to look. But never give unfinished, extremely in development products in the hands of very curious gamers. Gamer is an integrated part of life now. You know, everybody games, whether it's on your mobile phone or it's it's just big systems like PlayStation 5 or PC. Everybody games. So if there's something new to try, we're gonna try it. And the first thing I had with X Defiant, if this is it, then okay, it's mediocre at best. And then eventually a year passed, so the game was hugely in development still. A year passed. And then eventually, with all the marketing that went wrong and went south and with the delays, you're not creating buzz. If you want to create buzz, you need to have something in your hand that's 99% finished. You need to do the final part or the bits and pieces or just polish it a bit. And then you start hyping that buzz. And when you release it, the buzz is also being answered by reality. And that is not something that is happening. It's the pressure is on. It's all about shareholders. It's all about push, big money, and I get it. There is big money to get, so I know why we're all greedy about it. But quality is even third sometimes. I think. What what I begin to hate in general is the live service games. Some people hate it, some people like it. This is from PCGamer.com. You can look it up. I think it's a great article. Oh my god, I'm so freaking tired of live services games. I know, they're necessarily evil. Yeah, they are. It's 2023. Video games ain't what they used to be. They cost way more to make, which I get, and that's why I also would advise to take a bit more time to finish it. And developers have to continue toiling away on patches and expansions post-release. Money has to be made, and for the most part, one and done sales just ain't cutting it anymore. I fully get it, but there are also normal ways around it, because I am not a fan of battle passes. I am not a fan of buying skins for Call of Duty, because why the hell would I? Because nobody sees it, only the other one, and maybe in a kill cam, then I can see myself, and that's it. So, but there is a big but. I am playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, and the reason why I am up for buying a battle pass and obtaining all these items for money, which I necessarily don't always use, but that's massively in support of the team creating an extremely well thought of and therefore also popular game. Rainbow Six Siege is from my perspective one of the best, if not the best, first-person shooter. That's taste. You might have another opinion. Love to hear what your first-person shooter of the day is. But it's a game that has been made in 2015, and it's still there. It's got the same underlying concept, and it's been built upon, and the community feedback, there's a solid community around it, having all thoughts and input and interest in this game, and you can really see that there's a dynamic between the player base and the developers, and that's what you get out of it. No matter if you like it or not, you need to respect the hustle here, right? So with these live services games, it's almost that they have an escape module or an escape pod to create an unfinished game and then put that on the live services part. And he says it, live services game prey on one of the biggest weaknesses known to man, the intense fear of missing out. That's the whole thing, seasonal events, shipping away, the lengthy progression, some people want to keep playing and buying because their friend or their neighbor or someone from the office has bought this and that, and you also want to have that. And I think that, yeah, well, I it's an unnecessarily evil, but I'm sick and tired of it. That's it. And this is I like Geeks and Gamers. I think it's one of the best platforms and channels on YouTube. Great opinions, and not necessarily always agree with these guys, but I think that's all about having a discussion and making content. You don't always have to agree with anything, but they're really good. And this is an article or an opinion in a clearly modern gaming in general is just horrible. Sure, we get some good things now and then, but overall it seems to be an advancement of technical evolution in gaming is nearly ceased. If you look at how things accelerated from the dawn of gaming in 1958, there were leaps and jumps ever so often. So many good games came out of the 80s and 90s, with Nintendo and Sega ducking it out. Throw in the Wild West that was PC gaming, and there was new cool stuff all the time. And that is what I meant at the beginning. You know, I had so many different systems and handhelds and games that were flooding the market. There was so much creativity going on in that marketplace. Bring us to present day, and there are only a few major corporates running the show, and things have stagnated. The big gaming companies are doing what the music did to the post the CD era. That's also with Spotify. Now, I was reading an article with Snoop Dogg that had millions and millions, maybe billions of plays, and it would only give him $40,000. And that's why the pressure and the constant flooding of this market, it's a bit, now think about it, it's a bit the other way around, you know. There is fewer games and more music, of course, I understand that. But the whole transition in how a few big corporates has seized the market, that they aren't necessarily contributing to, but they are pressurizing this market that to consolidate it in just a few big games, and with indie games struggling sometimes, you know. They figured out that they did not have to put out a popular product that took time and effort so much in releasing low-effort junk on a regular schedule. It's not as successful, but it also costs less and takes less time. This makes profit more regular, which I think company boards like. Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. And eventually that also is a weird conflict this market is in as well, is that there is no drive for risks. You will not see Call of Duty changing the whole business model with a big bang. They will not. They will not take the risk, for example, to stop releasing annually. They announced it at a certain point, but then Modern Warfare 3, which was supposed to be DLC, happened. Okay, was it Modern Warfare 2? No, Modern Warfare 3. So we're actually, this is what we get, right? There's no risk taking. They will not stop making the gameplay differently. And that's why also new developers struggle hard. We've seen some huge misses in the last few years. So no drive for risk. You know, money comes anyway. That's also what he says with this regular junk that is being poured out on the drip, just to give us the false idea of content. I think Call of Duty is a big example of that. You know, at the end of a Call of Duty cycle, at the end of that year, you will have the most complete Call of Duty you can have. And then the new Call of Duty comes out and they strip everything, and then they're giving you things on the drip that we already have seen the last 10 to 15 years in repetitive modus, and then they start acting like, ooh, content. Well, it's not content. We already had it. We already paid for it, just maybe in the last few years, every year, and now you're taking it away and you're putting it back in, and we need to be amazed. And the final close, guys, Call of Duty X Defiant. I don't know. It's something. Why should we even bother discussing it? X Defiant is here. If you're having fun, great. It's not going to kill Call of Duty. Absolutely not. Never will. And I do hope that eventually it finds some uniqueness to promote. Because there's also no attachment between the characters I'm seeing and the levels I'm in. You know, I know the levels from the Ubisoft games sometimes and the characters, yada yada yada. But why there is no careful build glue to stitch that story together? Why are we there? Why are we playing with these people, and who are they, and what is so unique about the environment I'm in? It's just you've got a handful of characters, a handful of maps, and kudos, and it does nothing else than what we've already seen before. But you know, guys, this is my 2 cents. It's 20 minutes. Again, been traveling, playing a lot of old things, and that sparked my idea on did gaming become boring? Always very much interested in your opinion. And for now, enjoy the weekend, and see you all soon.